Welcome to the Lenin's IAS. In this video, we are going to see about Constitution of the United States of America and its comparison with the Indian Constitution. We know Constitution is a set of articles and laws which was required for the governance of the country. So, as we know that Indian Constitution is one of the lengthiest constitution in the world, and while comparing the Indian constitution with the other countries, we can able to get an idea about the difference between the constitution of the countries, and which is one of the most important topic in the UPSC. So first of all, we are going to compare Indian constitution with the United States of America, and we are also going to see about salient features of a constitution of United States of America. So first, we are going to see about the features of a United States of America constitution. US constitution is the shortest constitution in the world, which consists of only 7 articles, while comparing with the Indian constitution, which is the lengthiest constitution in the world, consists of 395 articles when it was formed 1950, and 470 articles by the year 2020. US constitution is the first written constitution in the world. When comparing with the other countries, US constitution was the first written constitution in the world. Next thing is that it is a rigid constitution. Rigid constitution means that the changing of a constitution or amendment of the constitution is a very difficult process. Till now, only 27 amendments was take place in the US constitution, and it also consists of only 7 articles. Finalized in the convention. So US constitution was prepared by the group of states of the United States of America, which means that the states are assembled together in a convention and they prepare the constitution for the entire country. But the Indian constitution was adapted by the Constitutional Assembly. Indian constitution was Indian constitution was prepared by the separate assembly, which is known as a constituent assembly, and it was later adapted, which means that the US constitution was formed by the group of states of that country, but Indian constitution was formed by a separate constituent assembly formed for the purpose. Next thing is that US constitution consists of a two citizenship, and it also consists of a two constitution, which means that a person who was born in a US is a citizen of a United States of America and also a citizen of a particular states where he was born. But Indian country has only one constitution and a single citizenship. For example, take for example, if a person born in India in some states like Kerala, if a person born in Kerala is a Indian citizen, we cannot say that he is a Kerala citizen. He is a Indian citizen. So in India there is only one citizenship, but in US there is a two citizenship. He is a citizen of a particular states where he was born, and he is also a citizen of United States of America. Next, we are going to see about the nature of the constitution, nature of the US constitution, United States of America constitution. First point is that federal constitution, it was a federal constitution ratified by 50 independent states. So if we take a United States of America, it consists of 50 states, okay, 50 independent states, like in India, where we have states like Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh. In US also there is a states, and the US consists of 50 independent states, okay. So the constitution of the United States of America was prepared by these 50 independent states in a convention. They are assembled together and they framed the constitution for the entire United States of America. So it was a federal constitution ratified by 50 independent states. Federal and state government has their own constitution and do not interfere with each other functions. So if you take in the United States of America, it consists of a two constitution. As I already said, United States consists of a two constitution. One is for the federal government, and other is for the state government of a particular state. So there is a two constitution, and they do not interfere with the each other function. So the central, which means the federal government does not interfere with the functioning of a state government, and the state government also does not interfere with the functioning of the federal governments. They have a two separate constitution, and they function according to the rules and regulations of their particular constitution. While we see in India, it has a single constitution, and the central government interferes with the functions of a state government. In India, we don't have any separate constitution for a particular state. We have only single constitution, and the central government interferes with the function of the state government. Any central government interfere with the functions of the any state government. Take for example appointment of the governors. Unlike in USA, the governors was not appointed by the central government. They are elected by the people of a state. But in India, the governor is appointed by the central government. Second thing is that reserving of a state bills. Reserving of the state bills in India, whenever particular bill is passed by the state legislature for the governor approval, the governor can able to reserve the bill for the assent of the president. Okay. Third thing is that a president rule was imposed by the union government. So these are all the interfering of a central government with the functioning of the particular state. So next thing we are going to see about is the nature of the federalism. Okay. The next concept that we are going to see is nature of a federalism. So we are going to see about the federalism, a difference in the federalism between the USA and India. Federalism is nothing but a country which has both the central and the state governments. So if we take in the USA, it is a dual federation. Dual federation means that a central government and state governments does not interfere with their functions of each other, which means that a central government does not interfere with the function of a state government. It runs independently. At the same time, the state government also does not interfere with the function of a central government. So there is a independent functions between these governments. But in a cooperative federation, they are interdependent, like in India. The state government and central government works interdependently with each other. This is also, this is dual federation is also known as a centrifugal federalism, and the cooperative federation is also known as a centripetal federalism. Symmetrical federation, symmetrical federalism. Symmetrical federalism means that all the states have the equal representation in a house of representatives or in a parliament. If we take in a USA, symmetrical federalism means that the 50 USA has a 50 states, and these 50 states have a equal number of a representation in a upper house of the US parliament, which is nothing but a senate. So each states have a 2 seats in a senate of a USA. But in asymmetrical federalism, there is a no equal representation, and the representation is based upon the population of a particular state. Like in India, the states have a representation in a Rajya Sabha based upon the population of a particular state. So this is known as a asymmetrical federalism. Likewise, Indian states also have some Indian states also have a special privileges, which was mentioned in Article 370 and 371. So in symmetrical federalism, there will be no privileges among the states, but in asymmetrical federalism, there is a privileges. Next one is a legislative federation. Legislative federation means that states of a country have a more legislative functions, which means that a state enact their own separate laws and functions according to it. But in India, the states only have a executive federation, which means that the laws are made by the Parliament of India, and the states have only the executive function, executing the law of a particular law that was created by the central government. Next one is the indestructible union of indestructible states. In USA, the country is formed by the agreement between the different states. Different states comes together and they formed the agreement and they formed the country. So the USA, although the separate states that was united to form the country, the states cannot able to destruct the union. It only come together and forms an agreement and forms the country, but it cannot separate from it. It cannot destruct the union. Likewise, the union government also cannot able to destruct the able to alter the boundaries of the state. The union government does not able to alter the boundaries of a state, does not able to destruct the state. So USA is known as an indestructible union of indestructible states, but India is an indestructible union of destructible states. So in India, the states are formed only for the administrative purposes. Union government can able to alter the areas boundaries of a state, but the state government cannot able to destruct the union. The state government cannot able to separate from a country or union. So this is known as an indestructible union of a destructible state. And finally, role of a state in ratifying. In USA, you take the role, the state government plays an role in ratifying the international treaties or any agreement at an international level, but no such provisions was there in a Indian government. In India, the states do not have any special or ratifying power with respect to the international treaties and the agreement. The next we are going to see is a form of a government in USA. USA has a presidential form of a government. If you take in India, which is having a parliamentary form of a government, but in USA it is a presidential form of a government, where the president is a executive head and also a head of the government. In USA, president is both the executive head and also the head of the government, but in India, a president is only a executive head who acts and functions with the aid and advice of a who acts and functions with the aid and advice of a council of ministers headed by a prime minister. So here the president in India, president is only a executive head. He is not a head of a government. The head of the government in India is a prime minister. President is an executive head who functions and acts with the aid and advice of a council of ministers headed by a prime minister. In USA, you see the president is a most powerful one. USA has a most powerful president and he is not accountable to the House of the Congress. So USA, the president has a real executive power and he is the most powerful one. But in India, the president is only a nominal head. He don't have any. I mean, he have a powers, but the real powers vest with the prime minister only. Next one is that in USA, the president is having only a 4-year term when compared to the India, which is having a 5-year term. And in USA, the president can able to stand in an election or be as a president only for 2 terms. But in India, a president is having a 5-year term and can able to stand in an election or be a president for any number of a term. So once the president in USA was being a president for 2 terms, I mean 4 years, which means 8 years, he cannot able to stand further for a presidential election. But in India, the president can able to contest an election for any number of a time. Next one we are seeing is president can appoint his own staff. In USA, president can appoint his own staff for administrative purpose, and they are not accountable to the House of a Congress. And those staffs are not accountable to the House of the Congress, which consists of 2 houses, House of Representative and Senate. President of a USA is a independent in administration and directly responsible to the people of a USA. So he is also a independent. President of the USA is a independent in a function. He does not able to. He cannot able to question. He was not answerable to any houses of the Parliament, US Parliament. He functions with the independent authority, and he was directly responsible to the people of the USA. Only he is answerable to the people of the USA. Impeachment of the president by the legislature, like in India. So this is one of the similarity between the president of a USA and the president of India. Both the cases, the president was impeached by the legislature. Next, we are going to see more elaborately about the president of a USA. So, as already said, he is both the head of a state and the head of the government of a USA. But in India, president is only a head of a state. He is not a head of a government. The real head of a government is a prime minister in India. The qualification of the US president is a 35 years of age, likewise in India. And he must be a natural citizen. Natural citizen means that a person must need to be born in USA and must have stayed in the USA for at least 14 years. So the qualification, the most important qualification of the US president is he must be a 35 years of age. He must need to be a natural citizen. Natural citizen means that the person should be born in USA and not by means of a acquired citizenship. And also he must need to be stay in USA for 14 years. But in India, both natural, a person born in India and also the person who born in other countries but acquired the citizenship of the India later can able to become a president of a country. So the president was elected by the electoral college, consists of members of House of a Representative, which is nothing but a lower house of a US Parliament, and the Senate, which is nothing but a upper house of the US Parliament, and 3 members from a Washington DC. Washington DC is a province of Washington DC is a province of United States of America. So 435 members from a House of a Representative, 100 members from a House of a Senate, and 3 members from a Washington DC participate in the election of the president of the USA. So totally 538 members participate in the election of a president. If a person need to win the election, he must need to get a absolute majority, which is nothing but a 270 votes. So the person who stands in the presidential election need to get a 270 votes to become a president. The next one we are going to see is the election of electors. Here the electors is nothing but a members of the House of a Representative, which is nothing but a lower house of the US Parliament, and the member of a Senate, which is nothing but a upper house of the US Parliament. So voters votes. Voters means the citizens of a USA participate in the election of a electors. Next one is that the US formed a list system. Here the people of a country vote for a party list, but in India the people of a country vote for a particular person from any party. Next thing is that each state has a responsibility to conduct an election. In USA, each state of a USA held the responsibility for conducting of an election. In India, the election commission with the cooperation of a state governments is responsible for the conducting of a election. Okay, next one is that party that wins a majority of votes represents the states on its entirety. Here the party, basically US is a two-party system. Here the party which wins the majority of votes in a election represent the state of its entirety. So a particular party from a state which wins the majority represent that particular states in a entirety. So electors meet in the respective capital and vote for a presidential candidates. So once the electors are elected by the people of a country, they meet in the respective capital of a state government and they vote for the presidential candidate. The next thing we are going to see is a function of a president of a USA, United States of America. So the US president has a various function, and we are going to see about it by topic wise. First one is the executive function. Executive functions of the US president is appointments of officials. So appointments of officials which was required for the functioning of the government and representing the country in a international level, representing particular country at international forums like G20, then other forums, which is a responsibility of a president of a USA. Next one is the preparation of a budget, was also the one of the executive function of a president of a USA. Next, legislative function. Uh, Unlike in India, the US president cannot able to present, address and dissolve the legislature. So in India, if you take every year, first session of a Indian Parliament was a first session of Indian Parliament was presented by a president of India. President of India will participate in a first session of a Indian Parliament every year, and also the first session after the formation of a new government. But in USA, the president of a USA cannot able to present in a parliament, and he cannot address the parliament. In India, president can address the parliament at the beginning of every year first session, and also at the first session after the conduction of a general election. But in USA, the president cannot address the parliament, and also he cannot dissolve the parliament. But in India, the president can able to dissolve the parliament, dissolve the Lok Sabha on the aid and advice of a council of a minister headed by a prime minister. Next one is this interaction with the legislature through sending messages. So the only form of a US president who needs to interact with the legislature of a USA is through the sending of messages. He cannot able to attend any session of a US legislature. Next one, US president has a veto power. He may sign the bill. Once the bill was passed in a US legislature, the US president has a three option which he can choose. First one is he may sign the bill. Once he signs the bill, it becomes an act. Likewise in India, he may veto the bill by returning the bill to the Congress. So he can choose the option of returning the bill to the Congress for a consideration. But here he only have a qualified veto. In this case, which means that the parliament can again, the legislature can again pass the bill by 2/3 of the majority, and then make the bill as a passed. So it is only a qualified veto. The president cannot able to perform a absolute veto. Only a qualified veto is performed by the president of a USA. The third option he can do is do nothing. He can keep the bill by doing nothing. In this case, the bill becomes an act after the passage of 10 days. For example, if a legislature passes the bill on April 1 and the president did nothing till the April 10, then the bill becomes an act on April 11 after the passage of 10 days, but excluding Sundays. The 11th day must not be a Sunday. So excluding Sunday, it becomes an act after the passage of 10 days. But if the legislature dissolves before the passage of the if the legislature dissolves before the 10 days, then the bill becomes a die. So the next thing we are going to see is a legislative proposal. President can recommend to Congress for a certain legislation. For example, if a country need any particular law regarding any issue, the president can recommend the legislature or Congress for certain legislation. For passing for creation of any laws that was required by the country in certain situation, the president can recommend to the Congress for creation of any new laws or any new regulations regarding particular issues. Indian president's pocket veto is more powerful than the pocket veto of a US president. So in US case, we can see that the legislature passed the bills and the president, if the president do nothing for 10 days, in 11th day the bill becomes an act, which is considered as a past. So in USA, if a president does not did nothing, he did nothing on particular bill, then it becomes act after the 10 days. But in India, the president can have a more powerful pocket veto than that of a USA, which means that the president of India can kept the bill by doing nothing for a many number of days. There is a no time limit for an Indian president for keeping the bill. So the pocket veto of an Indian president is more than that of a pocket veto of a US president. So the time limit for the US president is a 10 days only. After the passage of it, after the passing of a 10 days, on 11th day the bill becomes act if the president do nothing on a bill. But in India, there is a no time limit for a president to sign the bill. The president can keep the bill by doing nothing for any number of days. The next thing we are going to see is the date of a retirement and oath of a president and a vice president. So the retirement date of the retirement date or the last date for the president and vice president of a USA is a 20th January, which means that the term will end at the noon of a 20th January when a new president and vice president take oath of office. So this was a fixed date. Every 4 years on 20th January, whenever the new president and vice president take oath of the office, the existing president's term will end, and the date of such a thing is a 20th day of January 20. In case of a death of a president or resignation or impeachment of a president, the vice president shall become a president for the remaining period. Unlike in India, fresh election will be held. So in India, there is a certain thing that if the president post is vacant, which become vacant by means of a death of a president, then vice president will continue as a president only for a short period of the period of the time till the election for the new president will held and the new president was elected. But in USA, unlike in India, the vice president shall continue office of a president for the remaining period. For example, if a US president if a death of the US president occurs on a particular date and he completes the term for 3 years, then the vice president of a USA can continue a term for the remaining 1 year. Remember that the US has only a 4-year term for the US president. So if the existing president completes 3 years and becomes dead, then the vice president can continue for the remaining 1 year term. The next thing we are going to see about is the impeachment of a president of a USA. So the impeachment of the US president was occurs on the ground of treason, bribery and high crimes of a misdemeanor. No impeachment for the violation of a constitution. So this is the most important point that we need to note, is that Indian president can be impeached on the basis of a violation of a constitution, but in USA the president cannot be impeached on the ground of violation of a constitution. He can be impeached only on the grounds of treason, bribery or high crimes of a misdemeanor. So the process for the impeachment of a president is given here, which is that charges at the House of Representative. So the impeachment charges need to be presented at the House of Representative, which is nothing but a lower house of the US legislature. So the proposal must be passed by the 2/3 of the majority of a House of Representative. Then after the passage of such a proposal, the investigation for a impeachment of a president will be done at a Senate, which is Senate is nothing but a upper house of the US Parliament. So here the investigation was headed by the Chief Justice of a Chief Justice of the USA, who is a presiding officer of such a investigation committee. once the president was found guilty by this committee, then it recommends for the sorry once the president was found guilty by the committee, then he can be removed by the passage of the bill by passage of a proposal by two-third of a majority in Senate. So after the investigation process gets over in a Senate, which is done by a committee headed by a Chief Justice of a USA, and if the president was found guilty, then he will be removed by passing a resolution by two-third of a majority in a Senate, which is nothing but a upper house of a US legislature. The next topic we are going to see is a vice president of a USA. So the election of a vice president is the same when compared to the president of a USA. The qualification and the process of the election of a vice president is the same as a president of a USA. Separate election at the same time and in the same manner. In a earlier method, there is only a same election, and the person who comes first becomes a president, and the person who comes second will become a vice president. But in a later period, the method was changed, and the current method is that there is a separate election for a president and vice president, which will be held at the same time and in a same manner. So whenever the office of the president becomes vacant due to the death of a president or due to some reason, then the remaining term was continued by the vice president of a USA. But there is a certain clarification regarding this. For example, if the outgoing person completes the term more than 2 years, we already see that a term of a US president is a 4 years, and if a outgoing president completes a 3-year term or some term more than 2 years, then the vice president who continues the remaining term of the remaining term as a president can able to contest the presidential election for 2 more terms. Take for example, if one president completes 3-year term, if one president completes 3-year term and the seat becomes vacant due to the death of the president or any other reason, the vice president can vice president can continue as a president for a remaining 1-year term. But as already said, only the person can contest for a presidential election only for 2 terms. The person can be a president for a US president only for a 2-year terms. But here is that the outgoing president already completed the term which is more than that of 2 years, and there is a remaining 1 year which was continued by the vice president. So this vice president can be a president for 2 more terms if the term of the outgoing president was more than 2 years. In a second case, if the outgoing president completes a term less than 2 years, then the person who continues as a president, then the vice president who continues as a president can able to be a president for 1 more term. Take for example, here the vice president has a 1-year term here and 2 more term, which is nothing but 8 year. So totally he can be a president for 9 years. But in a second case, the outgoing president, take for example, if the outgoing president completes only a 1-year term, and the vice president complete a remaining 3-year term, here this vice president can able to be a president for 1 more term only, which means totally here the 3 years and the 1 more term, which is nothing but 4 years. So he can able to be a president only for 4, 5, 6, 7 years only. So this is the most important thing that we need to note down. Next, the function of a vice president. The vice president is the ex officio chairman of a Senate, which is nothing but a upper house of a US legislature. Likewise, in Vice President of India, who is a ex officio chairman of a Rajya Sabha. Vice President office. So Vice President office is also known as a superfluous highness due to his very high power and very high responsibility that was associated with the Vice President.